I think in terms of contribution to international development, I would cite the water policy programme's work on secure water and sanitation, particularly some of the programming, financing and real practical nuts and bolts issues around the delivery of reliable and safe water and sanitation to poor people. And I think a good example of that we have at the moment is a programme called Ripple, funded by the Department for International Development, where in Ethiopia and the Nile region, working with ministries at the top right down to Warada or county level governments, we are looking at the policy practice issues around getting safe water to previously unserved populations in an environment where the climate is going to change. People are already vulnerable to climate variability and risks and hazards, but also where other things, particularly population growth, are really making the delivery of basic services a huge challenge. By 2050, I think a lot will have changed. I'd love to go back to Ethiopia, where we have one of our biggest programs in ODI, Ripple, funded by the Department for International Development, where we see some of the real benefits of long-term engagement and working with local partners around some of the issues I spoke about in terms of rural water supply and also rural livelihoods. And I would like to go back to a country like Ethiopia and see people not relying on open ponds, dirty rivers for their water supply, but on safe and reliable sources. I would also like to see sanitation getting something of the priority it deserves, and want to watch China, how China deals with its stockpile or legacy of environmental problems is going to be a huge issue, I think, over the coming 50 years, but also a tremendous amount to learn, I think, from countries like China as we look forward. After all, China took 250 people out of poverty over a matter of 2-3 decades at the end of the last century, using a very different model of water supply and sanitation. I'd like to see a much closer look at, rather than one ideological or kind of blueprint approach to water supply and sanitation, water resources management, to embrace a range of different approaches, methods of financing, community involvement and so on.